Good afternoon, everyone.
Bob, thank you for not making me be the only one on camera.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry, I'm a minute late getting on here, but looks like we got a pretty good group here so far. So we'll give another minute and then we'll start a round of introductions for people. And then so I'm looking. Okay, Chris, I see you here. There was a question earlier about being able to share the presenter being able to share the screen. We're all set with that this time, right?
You can share the screen. Yeah, I just made you co-host, so.
Okay. Oh, well, so if a presenter, say one of the three guests that we invited wants to present something, they can.
Yeah, they should be able to share. I can also make people co-hosts if we need to, but.
Okay, all right. We'll
Yeah,
be more to do that.
It's the chat functionality that's weird, just because we use this for public meetings, so.
Oh, that's right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But sharing the screen should be fine.
Okay. Well, in the interest of everyone's time, why don't we just go down the list and have a quick introduction for people. We have a different group showing up a lot of times to these meetings from the past meetings. So I suspect we'll probably get more people joining us in a few minutes, but we'll just run down the list and anybody. I'll go down in order. So I'm Bob Espandola. The person that you probably found out about this meeting from, organizing the coalition here. And I see up next is Heidi Mahoney.
Hi, everybody. My name is Heidi Mahoney. I am the manager of government affairs at GoNetSpeed. I have two of my colleagues on the call today as well. If it's okay with you, Bob, do you mind if I have them introduce themselves?
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Jamie, I see you next to me. So.
Yep. How are you? My name is Jamie Sincata. I am the utility supervisor here at Whip City Fiber.
Oh, sorry, Jamie. There was another Jamie as well.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I'll tell you what, I'll just run down the list that I have here in order of how they appear on the screen as participants, and then your colleagues can introduce themselves, Heidi. So next I have Andrew Short.
Yeah, hi, Andrew Short, Whip City Fiber, Westfield Gas and Electric. I'm a key account sales manager here.
Okay, and I had Jamie Sincata. Is that the one that we just heard from? Is that the right Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, that'll go to Katrin.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone. Katrine Fairder from Westfield Gas and Electric, Director of Customer Service and Sales. And I actually was the customer service rep when we deployed fiber to the home network, our very first customer. So I've seen the progress with the community partnership. Thank you. Happy to be here tonight.
All right, thanks. And Tom Flaherty.
Tom Flaherty, General Manager, Westfield Gas and Electric, Whip City Fiber.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And Andrew Short. Did I?
Yep.
We just.
Oh, I got you. I'm sorry. My screen jumped up. I missed. Chris McClure.
Hi, I'm Chris McClure, the Chief Information Officer for the City of Watertown. We're working on our MBI Digital Equity Grant now and are interested in seeing what develops for public-private partnerships with broadband and other initiatives that Bob's working on. And then I also invited Jeff from the Tech Collaborative today to talk about some device upcycling potential available for cities and towns as well. But I'm actually driving home, so I'm going to be on mute most of the time unless someone has a question.
All right, thank you. And yeah, I should have mentioned myself that aside from being affiliated with this group, I'm a select board member of the town of Fairhaven and working with that broadband study committee there. So David Allen.
Hi, General Manager at GoNetSpeed.
Okay, thank you, David. So let's see. Jamie, Jeff Williams.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeff Williams. I am the founder and executive director of Tech Collaborative. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we do from a device perspective here in Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan Nunes.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Nunes. I'm the Assistant IT Director with the City of New Bedford. Kind of just give everyone a quick update where the city is at. We recently received the MBI Digital Equity Grant, and we have selected a partner, which is CTC Net, and we are currently have a kickoff scheduled this week to get that that process moving. Thank you.
Oh, all right, thank you. Then Mary, I don't have your last name here, Mary.
It's McGurn. Can you hear
I'm
me?
sorry.
It's McGurn. Mary
Oh,
McGurn.
okay.
Right.
And where are you from, Mary?
I'm from Egremont, Massachusetts, which is
Oh.
Berkshires.
Okay, yes, all right, thank you.
Farther west than many of the towns.
Yes, okay, you and I have corresponded by email, I believe, in the past, and you joined, yes.
I'm
Okay,
a
thank-
administrator, planning board member, and first time joining or attending the group.
okay. Oh,
And-
well, welcome.
All
Thank
I can say is that right now, our community has 100% coverage for fiber optic broadband.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have, let's see, two mics. I have one just listed as Mike and the other one, Mike Slawinski. So let's start with the first mic. That, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mike Solitro with Certex Broadband Solutions.
Okay, all right, thanks, Mike. Welcome.
I gotta figure out how to change my name and title there.
Okay, no worries. Okay, now Mike Slawinski, we joined us last time we had a meeting. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Mike Slawinski, MLP Manager, Town of Coleraine.
All right, thank you, Mike. Peter Chase. Dartmouth. You there?
Hi, Peter Chase, Director of Media for the Town of Dartmouth, and also on the Broadband Advisory Committee that broadband services. And I'm driving myself too, so I'll be on mute.
Okay, thank you. Sean Powers.
Hello, all. I'm actually from the town of Fairhaven. I sit on the broadband board with Bob.
All right. All right, Sean, thank you. And Steve Kolick.
Yeah, I'm Steve Kolick, work for Westfield Gas and Electric, Whip City Fiber, on their technical sales team.
Okay, Tom Flaherty. I didn't get you that yet, did I? No.
No, we're good. Tom Flaherty, Westfield Gas and Electric, Whip City Fiber, General Manager.
Okay, and Tom Newton.
Hi, all. Tom Newton, Town of Wilbraham. I'm the chairman of the Broadband Advisory Committee.
Okay, let's see. Have I missed anybody here? Every time someone jumps on the list. Oh, David Cole. I see you there, David.
Okay, David Cole, Westport Internet Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, I think everyone else we got, right?
I think Jamie Hoare, did you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, yep, sorry, missed you, Jamie.
Jamie, you're on mute.
There we go. I'm Jamie Orr. I'm counsel for GoNetspeed.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. So we have a number of guests. We'll have kind of a round table at the end of the meeting if anyone wants to speak about anything in particular that wasn't listed on the agenda. I just kind of came up with this agenda based on what I asked around, and I did get a recommendation from Chris McClure to add Tech Collaborative to the discussion today. And then I met Representative Heidi, who you have on the call here from GoNet Speed at a conference, along with Tom from Whip City at a Internet for All conference out in Worcester a couple weeks ago now. So invited them to talk to us here tonight. So in the order we have on the agenda, why don't we start with GoNet Speed with a discussion about something that I wanted to bring to this group to see if people were interested in advocating for it and make ready legislation. One of the things the group did talk about when we first formed was, being able to do advocacy work. So why don't you go ahead, Heidi, or whoever on your team is going to take the lead on this? And
yeah, no, I'll get started. I did put a short slide deck together, just to introduce you to who we are as GoNet Speed, but also to sort of talk about this particular legislation that we are supporting in Massachusetts. And it is not only beneficial to GoNet Speed, but really beneficial to municipalities that we're working in and to competitive ISPs coming into the area. So give me just a moment and I'll share my screen if I am able. All right, let's see.
okay, we got it.
Can you see that? Unfortunately, it's not showing in slide form, but that's okay. Presentation format. So a little bit about GoNet Speed. We are in 2021, a company called Oak Hill Capital purchased 4 internet service providers and 2 construction companies and bring them together to make the company GoNet Speed. GoNet Speed services mostly the northeast of the country, but we also have deployments for fiber in Alabama and in Missouri. So this is just a map that shows mostly where we're located. As you can see on the side here, Alabama, mostly New England area, some West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York. Okay. Just to talk a little bit about what we're doing right now in Massachusetts, most of our work is focused in the western half of the state. We are constantly evaluating where we can go in the rest of the state. But right now, Amherst, East Hampton, Ludlow, Agawam, and Springfield are our main focus areas. Amherst, I believe, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are live in Amherst now. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the struggles that we went through to get to that point. And that's really the point that the reason we're here today is to talk through that. When we deploy, we like to open up warehouses centrally located. Right now that we have one in Agawam. As we move into other areas and other towns, we would open additional distribution centers or warehouses that are close to those deployment areas. That's where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let Jamie sort of take over in terms of and a lot of you probably are very familiar with the full application process and make ready, but so bear with us as we sort of talk through what that looks like.
Yeah, if I could just for a second say that I think we have people that have joined our meetings are at all levels here, from just getting introduced to this concept of what fiber to the home might be to cities and towns that may have already been deep into it. So and myself, when I met you, Heidi,
Right.
just I will say that I did not understand myself that you're a construction and build company. I thought you were just more of a internet service provider. That's how we started the conversation about the make ready as being a limitation, but so we are in the provider, but we need to get on those poles in order to provide that service. So yes, thank you. And so good that we'll go through this as sort of a general information, and then I am happy to send anybody more information as we go through it. Okay.
So if you want to build a broadband network, you need access to existing utility infrastructure. And the most common infrastructure that you need access to is utility poles. The poles are owned by the existing ILEC telephone company. and the utility company. And there is a process for attaching to those poles. And this process goes back decades. But, you know, when we want to build in an area, we identify the routes for the network that we want to build. And we apply to the electric company and the telephone company for access to the poles along the route. And the telephone company and the electric company then survey those poles, and they deliver to us an estimate for any charges required for make-ready work. And I'll explain what make-ready work is in just a second. But we pay that estimate, and then the telephone company and the electric company perform the make-ready work, which creates space for us on the poles, and we construct our network. That sounds pretty simple. As that process exists in Massachusetts right now, that process can take years. And the main points of delay are actually getting those surveys done. And when the make-ready estimate comes back, there may be some disagreement over what is on those estimates. And then there is getting the actual make-ready work done. That make-ready work can consist of moving existing facilities around on the pole. So you might have to lower cable a little bit or raise telephone a little bit. You may have to do work in the electric space of tensioning up a secondary or grounding a streetlight. That make-ready process is a source of really interminable delay. And the fact of the matter is that pole owners are not in the grant access to competitive providers business, right? The telephone company is in the communications business. The electric company is in the business of providing safe and reliable electric power to their customers. So this process is never going to be their top priority. And since the passage of the 1996 Communications Act, there's been refinements to this process. They've been, you know, various state PUCs have refined the process. The FCC has addressed the issue. And there really is a better way than this to have access to poles. And you can go ahead and switch that now, Heidi. So first, you can utilize existing space on poles that has not been utilized. So if you look at a typical pole line, you'll see most of the facilities are on the street side of the pole. You can attach facilities to the field side of the pole, and this has been done in really plenty of jurisdictions. It's done ubiquitously in Connecticut. In Maine, it is encouraged. And the telephone company, Verizon in Massachusetts, has boxed numerous poles throughout the state. So when you are using that existing space, you're reducing the amount of make-ready work to make new room, because you might actually have a greenfield opportunity on the field side of the pole. You're also dramatically increasing the amount of space that's usable in the communication space, so you can avoid pole replacements, which are without a doubt the most expensive and time-consuming element of make-ready work. The second thing you can do is engage in a process called one-touch make-ready. So we call it OTMR for short. And with OTMR, you really leverage contractors that the pole owners are already comfortable with. So you use approved contractors. We would engage the approved contractor to do the survey. So we're controlling the timing of that. And they do the survey, the engineering, and then that is presented to the pole owners, and they do have an opportunity to review it. And it's on a pretty tight time frame. But they understand that the company that's doing that survey and engineering work has already been approved by them, already understands their standards. And Once that time period is passed, or they have given the pole owners have given their blessing, we engage approved contractors again to do that make-ready work in the communication space. And the type of make-ready work that can be done is limited to what's called simple make-ready. So really what we're talking about is the most common form of make-ready, which is moving lines around on the pole. OTMR is used in every New England state except Massachusetts, and it's used in most states across the country overall. It's a well-tested process that's been in effect for years in FCC jurisdictions, and Connecticut and Maine both use it. Earlier, I said that the traditional pole attachment process can take years to accomplish. In Connecticut and Maine, that time frame from application to service to customers is about 120 days. Now, just today, BEAD grants were announced to the state. There's going to be an extraordinary amount of public funding for broadband coming into the Commonwealth. That will result in a dramatic increase in the number of applications that are going to the pole owners. It will further stress their resources. And, absent I'd like to call it a creative solution, but it's a well-tested solution, right? Absent a well-tested solution to this problem, the pole attachment process really will grind to a halt. And so this public money, which is trying to address, an identified need and a public policy, is the effect of it will be dramatically diminished absent some kind of change in the process. We are supporting a bill at the Senate, at the state Senate and the state legislature that takes a one-touch make-ready paradigm that's been well-tested, and it's really substantially identical to the process up in Maine. There's been some language changed to conform it with existing Massachusetts law, but it would bring one-touch make-ready to the Commonwealth. Now, specifically, one of the changes we made to it was to make it applicable not just to competitive providers who might be coming in to Massachusetts to provide service, but also to municipalities or municipal projects that are expanding beyond their service, their traditional service territories. So it's not a Go Net Speed bill. It is a bill for broadband in Massachusetts, and it would dramatically speed up the service that's able to be provided.
Right. Now, you're going to talk about timing of all this. I don't want to kind of cut into
Sure. So, it's difficult to predict on when the legislature will move on things, right? So that is difficult. The bill is in committee right now at the Telecommunications Committee. If anyone is inclined to support that, a letter of support would certainly be welcome. And I'm happy to talk with anyone who has specific questions about how to do that and who to address it to and all of that. We can certainly help anyone out with that.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, and the timing for that. So any time it could move, say we waited another month for another meeting to discuss this again, that might be too late. Is that a?
Sooner is always better than later, right? Yeah. But certainly we understand that you all would have to discuss it and have any questions answered. But
yeah, I mean, certainly, if we were going to do something collectively as a group, obviously any municipality or person on this call could decide to write on their own behalf, but that's what I was suggesting is maybe if we were going to consider doing something as a group, I'd want to make sure people were generally on board with it and we had maybe some of the information you described. So we could get back together at another time if we had, some guidance on that first, to draft something and then consider sending it out. And then whoever wanted to sign, I guess that's the way I would envision this, is whoever wanted to sign on to it could, and, from the coalition, we'll just take it from there. I interrupted you there. I'm not sure where you were on your presentation. If you had more there, certainly.
Oh, no, that was all of it.
Okay. All
Jamie,
right.
unless you had anything else you wanted to add, or Dave, if there's anything else you
Okay.
wanted to add.
Now, really one of the key points is the competitive disadvantage that this places the Commonwealth
Yeah.
in, right? That you have, particularly if you're looking at an area like Greater Springfield, right? Greater Springfield is not a whole lot different and may be the same place as Greater Hartford, right? And certainly north of Hartford starts to become south of Springfield. There's a line on a map, and if you are north of that line, it'll take you years to build broadband network. And if you are south of that line, it will take you less than 4 months.
Okay, so that's really helpful to know. Now, just one other thing that maybe, so what you described about the space on the pole. So if you're able to go on the field, as you described, the field side, obviously that opens up a lot of opportunities there. But if there's, for some reason, you're not allowed to, can you just talk briefly about, that there is a limitation there because you have spacing required between each service, and then, if we had a number of multiple parties that were going to want to, every competitor to go net speed, let's say, for example, that wanted to get on there it's kind of a, first in line, and then everyone else falls in. And I see Mary has a question, so I just don't notice that. Mary, I'll get to you in just a second after they answer that question about the space.
Yeah, so one of the important parts of the One Touch Make Ready process is that, at the very beginning, when you are going out to do the survey of the poles with that approved contractor, you give notice to all affected parties. And so you meet in the field, you have an opportunity to hash it out in the field. And importantly, you have the opportunity to exchange some information, right? That, hey, there's a person ahead of you in line here. And so what is looking like you already have your foot of open space, you got to make another foot of open space. And what's the best way to deal with that? And one of the great things about it is it really leverages the capabilities of field personnel, right? That when they look at the polls, they know what they're seeing. They know what the solutions are. And you have approved contractors, you have anyone who's been invited can show up and they can have their input into it. And so that really is an important way of avoiding the sort of tripping over the party that's ahead of you when you're getting stuff built.
Okay, so thank you. Mary, go ahead.
First, a couple of comments. I wanted to tell GoNet Speed that I witnessed your attendance at the joint committee and your statement. It was eloquent, it was to the point, it was appreciated. You covered all aspects very well. So I personally thank you. The other thing, which is certainly a sense of timing, Senator Mark visited our town hall today, and during his visit, I had the opportunity to ask him to please, and not only himself on the telecommunications committee, but also his colleagues. We also had Representative Smitty Pignatelli, which is our state rep. Same message to both of them, to please support passage of the One Touch Make Ready. I can say from our town's experience how critically important it is for its passage. It caused significant delays not only in our town, but a neighboring town working with the same ISP, that slowed the process. In several instances, though, I will say there's a little bit of creative workarounds in order to keep moving in a particular neighborhood. The ISP, Fiber Connect, who is our supplier, planted their own poles. So you can plant your own poles if you get an easement from the town. They attached fiber, so at some point, if negotiations worked out, that those attachments could then be moved to the pole in question, then it can be done. But at no time did Fiber Connect, at least let's say when they realized that the delays would be ridiculous, they were already ridiculous, they just
Okay.
went out and put in a pole.
Okay. Well, good to hear that perspective. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anybody else have any questions or comments on this subject before we move on to the next item on the agenda?
Can I just briefly? I don't know how, I don't have anything that shows me how to raise my hand. Is that something that you control, or should I?
No, there should be some, it should be on the bottom or the.
Yeah, I've looked all over for it and I don't find it. But
Okay.
let me just say, it's my understanding that the town of Westport has some provision for access to the poles within the town, the existing utility poles. And I'm trying to check and make sure that's true, but is that something that is found in various towns? And would that be helpful to speeding up the process?
This is Chris in Watertown. I can speak to that a little bit. Towns are allowed to access what's called alarm space, the fire alarm space on the poles, but that's typically been used for municipal-owned dark fiber to interconnect your municipal buildings. It gets a little hairier when you're talking about a private internet competitor. So I've done that in several communities where you're installing town-owned or city-owned municipal fiber that's connecting your buildings together in the fire alarm space. But I think it's a different process for bringing in a private ISP or.
Okay.
Just to add to that too, from the city of New Bedford's perspective, we have kind of the same process. We did install a municipal fiber throughout the city and didn't have issues with using the poles. The understanding that I have is once you go into, even though you're not really making money, but it's a money thing, they don't allow you to use the poles. And it makes sense. It could be direct competition for Verizon at this point. I know that they don't have great internet, but so the city was only able to use it for their own fiber.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's the same arrangement in Fairhaven. Utilizing that space that Chris spoke about, but we haven't ventured into, anything beyond that. So, okay, good. So I don't see any other hands raised, I don't think.
I can't raise my hand. I just wanted to ask Jamie if I could circle around with him maybe tomorrow with a call.
Absolutely.
I have some direct experience. We're based in Connecticut. We building off. We've built for you too, and I have some questions about the actual process of One Touch. I'm experiencing it right now in Vermont.
Okay.
All right, and I do have some questions. It'll take a lot longer, and I don't want to take up the time here.
Okay, but they're not, Mike, just to be clear, if your thoughts relate to concerns about advocating for the legislation or the.
Oh, no, I'm advocating for it. I'm just
Okay,
saying
all right.
I'm not seeing it working the way it's claiming to be working.
Okay, all right.
And I wanted to have something offline. I've got this legislation in front of me. I see some good things in it, but I'm not seeing this working down in Connecticut. And I'm having some experience up in Vermont where it's working, but I want to see how this really works, and I want to get the GoNetspeed's legal person to have this discussion with me, because I'm not sure. Maybe he's seeing something I'm not.
He's the best person for you to talk to.
I think it is because it's legal issues. I see some language in here that could make this work, but like in Connecticut, we're still writing the checks. I don't see any, you still have to write the check. I don't know if they're giving you guys a refund, but we don't see any refunds coming back if they allow any, us to do the work, which we're a Frontier contractor, but I don't see where that's happening right now. And the process isn't working.
And, just to sort of piggyback on Mike's comments, right? Good legislation, good regulatory environment, good rules don't solve every problem. But it gives you a framework to get things done and get your problem solved. And that's what Massachusetts is lacking right now. With better rules in place. It's still hard, right? If this was easy, everybody'd be doing it. It's still hard work to get these networks built. There's still resistance and opposition, but the rules make it at least feasible and possible to get things done.
And, one of the key things is just being able to tell consumers, your constituents, your investors, when are you going to be providing service in this market? And having a framework to make that estimate and knowing that your estimate will be reasonably accurate is important, right? It attracts investment when you can do that. It allows you to communicate with your constituents, what your expectations are, and to not have to explain too much down the road why that has changed. And One Touch Make Ready does allow you to do that, right? That, you don't have to say, well, it's in 120 days from when we apply, right? And there is a process and you have to build your own build schedule into this. But just being able to have confidence into when you will be building allows you to sort of calibrate expectations. That does not exist in Massachusetts right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So there may be a point in time where if the legislation is approved, there's the frameworks in place, but then you have an enforcement issue, maybe somewhere along the line. That's a different story, but all right. Thanks for this conversation, everyone. We will, if anyone from GoNet Speed, if you want to drop off, certainly you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to stay on with us. That's up to you, but thank you for participating in the meeting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if anybody has any additional questions, Bob has my information. I believe you guys have my email address as well. I'm happy to facilitate any questions or.
Yes, I'm happy to facilitate the link between anybody that's looking for that connection to GoNet Speed. So, all right. So thank you, everyone. And
thank you very much.
Yeah. All righty. Thanks. So we're going to move next over to Jeff Williams from Tech Collaborative, who's going to talk to us a little about the program they have up. They've been working with, as I mentioned, I think earlier on the call, with Chris McClure in Watertown, at least, maybe some other communities that are on the call. All right. Jeff, are you going to share your screen?
I am. So I'll give this a go here and see if that's gonna let me do it.
Let's see. Chris, do you know if Jeff Williams, Chris McClure, if Jeff Williams is already listed as someone who could present?
Yeah, everybody should be able to present. The last people who presented were just members. So there's a share button on the bottom of if you're using the Zoom client, you can just hit share and then select.
Yeah, it's going to let me share, but I, for some reason, didn't have Zoom set up to allow my screen to share. So actually, I have to log off the meeting and log right back in, and then I'll be able to share. So I'll be back in like 5 seconds.
Okay, all right. Well, so just in the meantime, just while he's doing that, I can just tell you a little bit about the fellowship award that was the next item on our agenda. The SERPED, the Regional Planning and Economic Development District agency in our area of the south coast of Massachusetts here has received one of the 15 digital equity grants that Mass Broadband Institute had solicited bids for, proposals for, and so we're in the process of recruiting. SERPED is in the process of recruiting candidates for that position. It's a $30,000 stipend that they'll receive for 1,700 hours worth of work over the course of the next year. They'll be doing some training in the Midwest in the August timeframe, and then be available to the 27 communities in the South Coast SERPED region in about the September timeframe. And SERPED will house the fellow in their offices and provide direct supervision. And they'll be looking for any of their SERPED communities to approach them with a request for time to utilize the time for the fellow. But right now, the process of trying to recruit someone is what we're actually looking for help with. I've been working with SERPED myself just on this process, helped file the grant application, but the organization Lead for America that provides the fellow will recruit nationally, but they feel like the best candidates typically come locally. So if we find someone local, they might work in this area, and they might continue to work in the area after the fellowship is over. So if anyone can think of, we've thought of colleges and universities to be able to approach, and but if anyone has anyone in mind that they think would be a good candidate for this, certainly keep your eyes open through your municipality for some kind of an outreach that'll take place within the next several weeks, I would think. And when I get a copy, I'll forward it to the member list for this group. So, so let's see if we've got Jeff, you back with us now? Yep. Okay. I see you got it.
I am back. Yep.
All right. Yeah, I just
Hopefully-
go ahead.
As I say, hopefully everybody can see my screen now. So
Yes.
and actually it's kind of a good segue into, my presentation coming off of the, the discussion around internet access. So, for the folks that are getting internet access, we come kind of in behind or alongside, that initiative and provide devices. So Tech Collaborative, we're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our office is up in Amesbury, Massachusetts, and our mission is pretty simple. We're providing internet-enabled devices to anyone in need at no cost. Working to promote digital equity and close the digital divide in our local communities. Some statistics around, the digital divide as it pertains to device access. And this information is from a study done on Essex County specifically. And 1 in 5 homes in Essex County lacks a basic computer. And there's over 300,000 households in Essex County. So that equates to over 60,000 households in Essex County alone that lack a basic computer. So if you take that, those numbers and extrapolate them out across the entire Commonwealth, device access, people without devices, it's a pretty significant number. So how we began, like a lot of things, we were or are a product of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've worked in IT for over 20 years myself, and I had been working remotely prior to the pandemic. But my daughter, much like lots of other students around the area, went remote, tried to learn remote, and it became very apparent that the schools were in no way prepared for that type of environment. So I actually just took a couple computers that I had of my own off the shelf and handed them out started a short GoFundMe in 2020 where I raised about $15,000 and turned that into 850 devices that we distributed kind of in the Amesbury area. In 2021, the Essex County Community Foundation approached us and, wanted to know if this was something that I, thought we could scale and do at a larger, at a larger level and try to meet more people, more individuals' needs. So Tech Collaborative was born, and then last year we were finally formed as a 501c3 charity. Our value propositions, the things that make us unique in what we do, it boils down to really two kind of main things. To get a device from us, there is a zero barrier access to a device. If an individual needs a device, all they have to do is ask for it, and we put them on our distribution list and we give it to them. We don't ask anyone to prove, how poor they are or, what the reason is behind needing a device. If they make the ask, we provide it to them. And the devices that we're distributing, for the most part, are refurbished devices that we're getting from partnerships that we have. And as Chris mentioned, we're a partner with the City of Watertown, and the City of Watertown, when they are, done with their devices or upgrading their devices through their school department, the town offices, the DPW, the library, they're giving us the opportunity to come in and pick up those devices. We bring them back here to our office in Amesbury, refurbish them, and send them back out into the communities and give them to individuals in need. So as of this month, we've distributed over 4,000 devices all over Massachusetts at this point. We've raised over $240,000 in grants to support our efforts and the staff that we have here that is actually doing the work. We have a goal for this year alone to distribute 4,000 devices, so that would bring our total to around 8,000 devices by the end of the year. And our next year, our goal was to do 12,000 devices for the entire year. As far as who we're distributing the devices to, primarily till this point, we've done most of our distribution through other organizations and nonprofits that are, have the boots on the ground in the communities that we're distributing devices into. They come to us and tell us what their need is. We provide them with the devices, and then they're the ones that are doing the distribution. But we do also, have individuals that come to us directly, and we provide devices to them. As the slide states, we've distributed devices to over 100 different unique organizations serving lots of different areas across over 50 different towns and communities all over Massachusetts. So the ways that we look for help to continue what we're doing, we're always looking for partnerships, whether it be a business or corporate partner. Businesses are always updating their technology, and they're having technology that needs to go somewhere. And for the most part, most companies and even towns, for that matter, are paying an e-recycler to come in and take away their unwanted tech. We're willing to come in and take it away for free, refurbish what can be reused, and then anything that actually does need to be recycled, we make sure is responsibly recycled so that it doesn't go into a landfill. So just like what we're doing with Watertown, we're looking for other towns and municipalities to partner with us from a device perspective. So if your town or municipality has devices that they're going to be sending out for recycling, we'd ask that you give us an opportunity to take those, refurbish them, and then put them back into your communities. You know, most of those devices, especially the ones that are coming out of the towns and out of the schools, they were paid for with tax dollars. You know, we think it only makes sense to put them back into the communities in which, you know, purchase them in the first place, if at all possible. You know, we have a lot of personal partnerships where people are donating, you know, their own individual computers, tablets, or devices, because for the most part, so, you know, people don't know what to do with those. They put them in the back of a closet somewhere in a drawer and think, you know, I don't think anybody would want it, so I'm just going to keep it there. So we do offer the ability to you know, do data destruction services for people, so that if you you know, have information on the devices that is sensitive in nature and you want to make sure it's destroyed, we can provide a DoD you know, level certificate stating that the data has been destroyed per DoD standards, so that you can, you know, feel safe in knowing that there's nothing from an information standpoint that could make it outside to anyone else. So we're also always looking for, you know, volunteers or, you know, people to help us, you know, refurbish the devices and get them back out into the communities. You know, right now we can provide a device to an individual for right around $20. And we're always trying to drive that cost down even lower. So you can visit our website if you would like to, you know, learn a little bit more about what we're doing. You know, you can obviously reach out to me. You know, Bob has my email address. Chris can talk about the work that we're doing with them. Actually, tomorrow we actually are doing a pickup in Watertown of the devices that the school department is done with and is upgrading some devices. So we're doing a pickup there tomorrow. You know, happy to share more about, you know, our mission and what we're doing and how we're doing it. You know, we're doing quite a bit of work right now with the organizations that are receiving their grants from the Mass Broadband Institute. They're going to be using us for their sources of devices, you know, because we can provide devices that are at a significantly lower cost. And then it's going to allow them to serve many, many more people than they would otherwise. So that's us. I appreciate the opportunity to share, you know, about us and what we're doing. And if you're interested, obviously, like I said, please feel free to reach out, and would love to hear from all of you.
Thanks, Jeff. This is Chris real quick. I actually have to jump off right after this, but just a reminder to everyone, I am recording the session, so I'll put that on our broadband website tomorrow. But yeah, I saw Jeff's presentation at our regional planning group, MAPC, and it seemed like a no-brainer to me. So it's like, you know, we're upcycling things we normally would have been recycling, and it's furthering our digital equity goals. And then my two big questions were about the destruction certificates, you know, just to ensure security. So we are able to get those DoD destruction certificates, and that is a service we were paying for with our recycler. So that's, you know, money we're not paying for that. And then they have been able to do a couple of big pickups. We picked up, you know, city, school, library, DPW with no issue, and we plan on continuing that. And if you go to watertown-ma.gov/digital equity, all one word, you can see we've got a link to them in addition to our other digital equity initiatives that we're doing. And we've provided an application for our residents, because that was my other piece, is to ensure that you know, Watertown residents would benefit from our partnership, and both of those criteria were met. So we've been happy so far and plan on continuing it. And I'll jump off in a bit, but thanks, Jeff, for jumping on.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, all right, great. Thank you, Jeff and Chris. And I just want to ask if anyone, I don't see any hands up right now, but if anyone has any questions for them before, well, for Jeff anyways, before he may consider signing off. But again, you're welcome to stay on with us, Jeff, if you'd like. I'm not suggesting you need to leave, but anybody, oh, I'm sorry, my video is off here. Right, does anybody have anything? One more ask? Okay, all right, thanks again, Jeff, and that presentation, it's on the video, but if you wanted to send that, and same with you, Heidi, if you wanted to send those to me, we could post the actual presentation on our website as well, if that's okay with both of you, and
Sure,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'll send mine along as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next up, we were going to, I think I might ask if I can just take this out of order a little bit, because I think it'll help. Item 4 was Whip City Fiber, but item 5 was update from the group working on the prospects of a regional public-private partnership, which was up to this point, it was Westport, Dartmouth, New Bedford, Fairhaven, and Mattapoisett. So maybe I'll just give you a quick update on that, as it may relate to the discussion with Whip City. So this group has met last week, and we talked about the process of maybe putting together a request for information to find qualified companies that would partner with us from the private side. And as we went through that conversation and tried to figure out how it would work, we found out from Sean Gross, who's a consultant that's been working with New Bedford for quite some time, that New Bedford is already going down this path themselves with paying a consultant to put together a request for information document that Sean seems to think they'll be able to share with these other 4 communities to see if they're interested in putting together something regionally that would be similar. So we saw that as a good opportunity to avoid, reinventing the wheel, doubling efforts, that kind of thing. So we're going to kind of sit in a holding pattern until New Bedford is able to share something with us. Westport, David Cole is on the line with us. And his feedback was that Westport would like to kind of go a separate direction that they think will be a little more expeditious to get through the process, working independently with one company that will help them vet partners. And so there's a couple of different ways this can be done, but he said that Westport will stay in touch with our group of 5 and consider rejoining the effort down the road. But and David, you can add to that if you'd like, but that's kind of just a summary I was going to provide. Okay, all right. So unless anyone has any questions about that, we'll kind of go right on to the next thing. Does anybody have any questions about the work that we're doing in the public-private partnership? Okay, all right, thank you. So now we'll go over to Whip City. Again, I met Tom Flaherty at the Internet for All conference out in Worcester a couple weeks ago, and I explained to him actually just that subject that we had, that the reason why this group of 4 or 5 communities in the South Coast were banding together to study the prospect of public-private partnership is because we were told that we needed that kind of economy of scale, or at least a larger number of a larger population than just we had in Fairhaven, of about 15 to 16,000 people. Westport has a similar population. Dartmouth's bigger, and then New Bedford's even bigger than that. Smaller. Mattapoisett's considerably smaller. But so we tried to group together on that basis. But when I talked to Tom, he suggested that there might be other ways to go about it that don't require that number of people in a population for fiber to the home. So I invited him here to discuss their efforts out in the Western Mass and kind of tell us what we should know in that area. All right.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. I'm going to just start a little bit, and then I'll pass it over to Katrine. But what I was getting at was, we have towns like Coleraine, who happens to be on the call today, Mike Slawinski, and Alford, which is right next to Egremont out in the far west, western points of the state, that have built systems on their own with our support, with our technical capabilities, and then our services after the fact to run their own systems. One of the upsides, what's happening for Colerain, is they have 6 communities that they attach to in the north central western Mass part of the state. So what they do, when we designed, they had meet me fibers at the at connections where the towns met each other on the routes. So now we're putting a meshing system together. So as far as your partnership with those towns, that can stay together, and I would recommend that on the meshing things together. But as far as you can also do it as a standalone, so then there's not any give and take within the partnership, that you can run it all separately, but at the same time run a reliability system and a mesh network together. So I'll just open up a little bit. So Westfield, we're a municipality, we're 2 towns or 2 cities west of Springfield. We're a city of just about 43,000 people. We have 18,000 plus electric accounts. We have over 10,000 natural gas accounts, but then our latest segue for the business is as a municipal fiber provider to 20 communities in Western Mass, and we're just about to add another 5, including West Springfield, Hamden, Southwick, East Longmeadow, and we're bidding on Southampton now. So that being said, we have about just over 15,000 customers on our Whip City Fiber side in the 20 communities that we're serving. So I'm going to pass that over to Katrine, and she can go through the rest. Thanks, Katrine.
Thank you, Tom. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So as Tom had mentioned, we've been servicing the community. So where we started in Westfield is we actually focused on a pilot area, and then based on the demand and construction costs, then we move forward throughout Westfield. So we are in a competitive market where the community partners that we worked with aren't. They were actually unserved or underserved communities. And then we were actually approached by the state to act as agents on behalf of the town's behalf. So I'm going to actually go through what we do exactly. So you can see, as Tom had mentioned, we're in the process of working on the redundancy. So the clusters, so you can see the different clusters that we're working with, but these are partnerships. And one of the many benefits of the municipal lighting plant is it's actually your customers. So we're the internet service provider. So that's your assets. And through the municipal partnerships, we get benefits by our inventory here in Westfield, and then we can actually have an agreement as soon as tomorrow with a MLP to MLP intergovernmental agreements. And then, as you know, for planning for the future, there is benefits of municipally owned infrastructure, and then that provides lower prices because you are giving back to your community. It creates competition as well for your residents, and then it boosts the economic development. We did find that working with the realtors, people actually want fiber to the home. We've even had people not move into a home because there was not fiber available. And then you do provide better service because eventually my saying is you're walking billboards throughout the community. So what we did with the 19 communities and just West Springfield, starting with West Springfield at this time, is the design and engineering. So we do a field walkout, and then we make sure that each home is passed, and then we allocate for the service drops. So if it's a 2-family, we want to make sure that there's 2 drops for each resident. We then work and collaborate with the towns on hut locations to make sure that it's a central location recommended by WG&E, but it's a mutual agreed upon location to make sure that it's a reliable location as well. And I know at the beginning we had gone through the make ready and poll application process. So over the last 7 years since we've been engaged with the communities, we've submitted over 40,000 poll applications throughout the communities. And we still have those ongoing communications with Eversource, Verizon, and National Grid. So we would work with the towns to establish municipal lighting plants. So then they're allowed to attach to the poles. So we would assist as partners throughout all of this process. And then that is one of the biggest unknowns, but we do work hand in hand by reaching out to the utilities. So with the 19 partnering communities, and it was during COVID, so there was 20 towns all at once. So start to finish, it was about a 3 to 4 year process, but we did keep a pulse on it to keep that moving along and assist. Then we finally go out to bid on behalf of the towns for the construction as well as the materials. And then for the service drop, I know that we do have Surtex on the phone as well. We are currently partnered with them for the construction piece. And then we do the project management of the crews, such as Surtex. And then ultimately, the goal is to become the internet service provider, which is the ISP. So I'm going to walk you through the benefits of that as well. So we actually have a 24/7 dispatch center that was for our gas and electric. So we utilize the same 24/7 dispatch center for fiber. So we do have it on site. We have 2 locations in Westfield. We have an operations center, and then we also have our business office right here in Westfield. And we actually have crews throughout the communities. So then I know Mike Slawinski can vouch. Our goal is to have a truck roll within an hour to those locations to triage. So for the customer service side, this is where it gets interesting because each town has their own passion on what they want to sell, what they're charging. So we would onboard the website, and then we would establish rates for each town, working with the town, and then each town would have their own website. So that's currently how it's set up. And then we also do the billing, the collections. So what's interesting is I'm actually a resident of Blandford. When I pay my bill, it goes into Blandford's bank account. So we don't have those funds, it goes right to the town. So then we would charge you monthly for those services. But again, it is your customer, so you have control over those funds. And as I mentioned, the emergency response. So the next step is the network operator. So we manage the physical plant, the operations. We do the construction and repair with our personnel. And then also data security. We do have, as I mentioned, the 24/7 dispatch, as well as the network resources right here on site, and then network monitoring. And then also now we're working with all the communities on redundancies and reliability. So working with the other providers. So here we just wanted to put an image because people are like, well, what's your partnership? So we just wanted to put an image that we do have emergency response. So in-house, we have our field technicians that have our Whip City Fiber trucks. They'll go on site for a storm. I know actually why we're on the call right now, we have a group message for the emergency response because a storm is coming, just to make sure that it's all hands on deck. And then we would walk through your hut, the network components. This is more technical, but we would have standing meetings with that. This is actually where it becomes live, where you can really put it into perspective what your town website would look like. So here we do have a current partnership with West Springfield. So we're working with West Springfield from start to finish on deploying a fiber to the home network. And we were approached by West Springfield. So they do have their own website, and then that actually captures the customer relationship management. So how many representatives in the town that you want, you can see who signed up. You can nudge those customers if they haven't signed up, but really it's your information. So you would have access to that. And what's interesting is I know the 19 communities that we worked with is they were unserved or underserved. So they do have a high number of customers taking that service because they didn't have another option, especially during the pandemic. But what we strive on is we have a marketing group. So we do whatever works for you works for us. So we do direct door mailers, lawn signs. It's funny, people even have the lawn signs. And if it's in Christmas, they show us the snowman. But now we have lawn sign pictures with the flowers in bloom. So we do the lawn signs, newspaper ads. And then what we have found working in Westfield is it's education and trust. So in order to get a customer to get rid of their current provider, you have to build trust. And that's what we would do with our partnership. So we do have marketing info sessions. Here in Westfield, we did it at the library, we did it at Amelia Park, and then we were just in one of the community partners last week just to share more information. And we found some of the uneasiness on getting customers to sign up is just what's going to happen to my home. So again, going back to education and trust. So we would do a marketing campaign, and then we would describe exactly how the fiber is installed. And at that point, we provide some ease for customers. So we're actually working with a local modular homes here in Westfield. So we're going through the start to finish process to make sure that they're comfortable, to make sure that the property managers are in agreement on how the fiber is going to be installed, and then just education. Education is key. So that's where we're working here in Westfield. So with the community partnership, ways to save is by going to paperless billing. So with all of our community partners, it is paperless billing. So all the customers receive it through email, and we would assist with that, setting them up with an email account. But that way you save on postage. You can see if the customers opened up their invoice. So with that being said, we actually do the terminations as well. We know this is a large investment. So monthly, we have a department internally here, our credit department, we do the collection side. So if the customer is not paying, then we do terminate them for non-pay, but it is a remote reconnect as soon as they pay. So we do that all here in Westfield. So I know many of you had mentioned about the digital equity conference that some of us were out last week. So our goal for this year is to partner with the schools. So we already have marketing materials out with the schools, the senior centers. And then now that it's competitive, we also are implementing a realtor program to get the buy-in from the realtors, because the biggest sale is actually the word of mouth by people referring you. And then this is just, I was kind of breezed through, but this is just one of our pictures out in the snow. And then also Jamie's crews here, we are growing, and one of the benefits to have them on site. And then we also have our facilities where we have fiber on hand. During COVID, it was making sure that you had the inventory on hand, the lead time, whatever it may be. So we are fully stacked on the materials here, but we are very passionate. I know we have a large group on the call, but everyone plays a specific role, whether it's billing, tech support, customer service, sales. But we're very, as I mentioned earlier, I've been here for 9 years, hooking up the first customer in Westfield, and you don't know if it's going to be a success. And then lighting up, it's actually over 920 miles of plant in the Western Mass community. And we've been engaged with the community partners since 2017. And then, as I mentioned, submission of over 40,000 polls, working through that on the town's behalf. So did I miss anything, Tom?
No, I think you covered it all. One of the things that we pride ourselves on here in Western Mass, we have enough fiber on hand for backup to wire 4 towns in the event of a disastrous storm. So when we're having snowstorms come through and things like that, Mike Slawinski can attest to that, where they had 3 feet of snow in March, and we had our fiber crews, and we had our line crews, electric line crews up there, walking through 3 feet of snow, carrying ladders to get to right of ways, to get fiber back up and clear the right of ways. And we are definitely responsive and reactive to all of your needs. So,
and we even just to add some humor to the group, we have Jamie in the crowd. So Jamie actually went in a canoe to strand fiber to the other side, and then he actually flipped over, but he got through it. So we're up for the challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Now I do have I don't see any of the hands up yet, but I have a question for you. When these local communities that I was referring to that are looking at the public-private partnership, one of the reasons for that is because towns are, concerned about the cost of financing these projects. I know in some of the Western Mass communities, there were significant grants to help fund those projects. But we're not sure what that's going to look like for us when it comes time to build. And a lot of communities are, under financial stress. So the partnership on a public-private basis seemingly provides an opportunity for a community to not have to come up with that funding and, bond that for that, all upfront, and to see that the project's going to be successful, let people get comfortable with it in the community, and then possibly down the road, if the contract allowed to take ownership or some, portion of ownership or something. So that's, I have you as Whip City operated under that kind of a model at all, or has it always been, the funding coming through the municipality?
So far, the funding has only come through the municipalities. What we do is we work through a full financial model with the town. So for West Springfield, there had the potential of 13,000 locations. for the size of West Springfield in their cost, and I don't want people to get sticker shock, but it was going to be over $20 million for them to build out their plant. So for them to meet the debt service payment on the $20 million for a 20-year bond, they only needed to get 3,000 customers out of the 13,000. Our take rate here in Westfield is between 55 and 60%. When we're doing our cost analysis for these towns, we do it based on a 50% take rate. So for them, that again, for the first 3,000, that's paying their bill, and for the next 3,000, if you're rounding down to just 6,000 subscribers, but that next 3,000 is profit. So it's significant. So here in Westfield, we are probably about 85% built. We were able, we're lucky enough to have our partners in the Hilltown communities out here in Western Mass, where that allowed us to get to a point where we could reinvest back in Westfield from our initial bond of about $15 million. And we borrowed internally about $6 million, and then it was costing us, I think total is going to come out to about $31 to $32 million to build out Westfield. So we're doing that a lot sooner, and with that current take rate, we are positive net income now annually, and we're reinvesting to build out the rest of Westfield. We reinvested $3.5 million last year, $2 million this year, $2 million in 2024, and I believe another final $1 million in 2025 to be fully built out. That being said, as you build, what we call an FSA, fiber service areas, and bring those online, you start to get that revenue into your accounts as far as paying your bills. What we did in Westfield was we went out to put marketing surveys throughout the community, and the towns that for each fiber service area, it's about 250 locations. And if we reach 40% of that, that's considered for us 100% take rate. So any of those groups that got to 40% take rate, or 100 customers, that's who we built out first. So that being said, as the rest of the community got built out, and as people experienced it, so we started in 2014, 2015. Streaming was just really beginning at that point. So there was a lot more risk to us as far as how we were building it out at the time, because there wasn't, there was Netflix that was just starting. There was no Amazon Prime at that time. But the capabilities of the high-speed internet, where we're 1 gig to the home, versus what I had from Comcast at that time was, I think I was 10 up and 11 down, for speeds, megabits per second. And when I tested wireless the day I got Whip City Fiber, I was 700 up and 700 down, symmetrical. So that being said, and once people realize, hey, this isn't really a big switch, and people were really happy to get rid of their $300 Comcast bill and go, here in Westfield, obviously because we own the service, we were able to go with a lower rate at around $70 per subscriber per month. Some of our Hilltown partners, I think Alfred, for one, next to Egremont, it's about $115 per month. But again, they had nothing there before. So people were definitely more than willing to spend the money. And I think our average take rate in the Hilltown community is about 85%.
All right, thanks, Tom. And about the model you mentioned, I know you mentioned MLP model there before. Is everything you do with MLPs? Are you dealing with communities that are using an enterprise fund model?
Some managed through an enterprise fund model, but they all became MLPs to go through that process, so they could have an internal mechanism to manage their money versus the town managing the money and removing all the funds out of each individual account. But for us, that's what's made the most sense.
Okay, because I know Mike, I'm sorry, Mike, did mention, Mike Smolinski from Colerain did mention when he was on our meeting a prior month, they started as an MLP and they kind of moved over to an enterprise fund. But I guess, you know, the debate is down in our area has been, can you just go right to an enterprise fund model and not have to utilize an MLP? In some communities, including Fairhaven and Westport, have already established the 2 votes at town meeting required to become an MLP. But there's a debate of whether, you know, just it might make more sense to just utilize the enterprise fund model, which our legal counsel told us we could not use that model on an opt-in basis. So in other words, you typically an enterprise fund, if you're building, you say a sewer line going by someone's home, everybody on that road would get billed for the infrastructure that's passing their home. And then if you connect, and there's an additional fee, and you know, we were not willing to do that because we didn't think we'd get enough support in the community if that was going to be the basis. So we said, well, can't we just do an opt-in to an enterprise fund? And our legal counsel told us that's not the way the statute's set up to allow that. So you have to have special legislation in order to be able to opt in for that, and it could be pushback from, you know, banks and so on. So anyways, that's just you've answered the question though on the MLP primarily, but the other question, oh, go ahead. If you
No, I
have
was just going to say the process to become an MLP isn't that difficult. If you do have, you know, town manager, select board, form of government, it's 2 votes in consecutive years. So if you have, you know, special town meeting this fall and you have your general town meeting in the spring, that's pretty much all it takes. From the city standpoint, for New Bedford, if they were going to do something like that, it's a vote of, I'm not sure if they're a strong mayor or weak mayor, but typically it's a vote of the council or 2 votes of the council in consecutive meetings. And then it's the following year, it goes to general election. So
Yeah.
I know several towns or cities around us. Northampton most recently did that. We are working in partnership with Northampton, but really just taking care of now of their municipal network. They're not quite sure on what business model that they want to go with right now. So that's, you know, that's where that works. This business model right now that we have, people see that first initial nut of money and they get really nervous. But when they look at the financials step by step going through, they're like, oh, that's really not as hard as I thought it was going to be to reach that. Even smaller towns like Southwick and Hamden, you know, that have, you know, 1,000 potential locations. Or I'm sorry, they have 2,000, but we look at them as 1,000 just to get to that 50% number. They're like, well, we can definitely get there, especially based off, we help them put a survey out. All the survey information comes back, and you know, we look at, you know, price points that they might see. You know, for West Springfield, they're a larger community. They're looking at an $85 price point. But you know, if you're only getting internet only from Comcast, it might be that same $85, but the speed is, you know, maybe 100 megabits per second that they're providing, and you know, us and the town's product is 10 times faster. And it's that town's and it's that community's product. So people, you know, there's still people in here in Westfield that have Whip City Fiber and they still have Comcast because they don't want to switch from knowing exactly, you know, what channel Nesson is on, or ESPN or Home and Garden, you know, or any of those other networks.
So what let me ask you, I think it's a quick question here, and then may have one a little more involved. When you build out a network and you're serving as the internet service provider on that network, so the municipalities own the infrastructure, you're coming on as a provider. Have any of them done an open access model where multiple internet service providers would be vying for the service there? No.
No one has done that at all yet. That we're working with. It was talked about. I you know, talking with Quincy the other day. That's, you know, the plan that they're going to do. I find that, and I am biased, but I just find that extremely difficult. If you have multiple providers coming off of the same network, then, somebody has to know that ABC company has that section of town and XYZ company has this other section of town, and who's responsible for putting that fiber back up on the pole if the fiber on the pole says, Westport or Fairhaven or Whip City Fiber. If we work with those towns and the town has that opportunity to run that business, you're not going to run into a cluster in that place of trying to figure out who's responsible for doing what to that infrastructure.
So in your, in the model that you're describing, there are two internet service providers, one with independent networks, right? That you have.
Yeah, or multiple. In the eastern part of the state, what we found is you can have Comcast, Spectrum, and Verizon Fios in the same community. So I wouldn't recommend it to those communities to, provide an influx of, $10 to $30 million of investment to compete against 3 other providers that are, 100 plus times the size of you, right? Because they can squash you. Here, and I'm assuming in your area, there's only one provider. It's either Comcast or Spectrum. So to compete against them is a lot easier because you're not, for us, we've never raised our rates, and none of our customers have ever raised their rates. Our partners haven't raised their rates. So, that being said, and you look at Comcast here, they raise their rates every January, $10 to $15. Doesn't matter what it's for. They just raise them, $10 to $15 every January. Doesn't matter if you're under contract. It doesn't matter with anything. And I'm assuming that anybody on this call that has that, service, they've been impacted by that. So to get the capability and the quality of the equipment. So we build out at 1 gigabit. The equipment that we put out is capable of easily managing 10 gigabit of data speed. And everything we do is state of the art. It's not a fiber coax system. We go to everywhere in the city or town that's overhead or underground. I know, I'm not besmirking Otelco, but they're going into the town next to us. They're only doing overhead in the town of Bagwam because the cost to do the underground is significantly more expensive. But they're also now, a taxpayer in Agawam, where Agawam doesn't own any of the infrastructure. That was the option that they chose to do. But Otelco is making a significant investment in that community to try to get that business.
So if a community was looking to establish, what's the cost of, a build out in their community, and you have a standard for, say 50% take rate, how does that community go about getting a firm price on what it's going to cost to build without knowing exactly what that take rate is, and then how do they get the take rate without having that information to provide to people? So like a chicken and egg kind of situation.
No, so what we do is we get all of the plant miles. We look at your overhead. We look at your underground. We look at the number of potential PDUs, potential dwelling units. We look at the MDUs in your community, which are multi-dwelling units. That's anything that's 4 or more locations in one. We look at all your commercial opportunities in your community. So we take all of your plant miles. We take the total number of your poles for the pole application process and the costs that are affiliated with that. We provide an estimate of what the make-ready costs are per pole. Right now in West Springfield, that's averaging out to about $1,100 a pole. But we go through step by step every aspect of from the cost of the fiber and the materials and the contractors and our project management costs. And we add it all up for you, and then pretty close to and based on what the exact cost of per foot or per mile of the fiber is, and every aspect, whether it's the optical network terminal or the MST, which I always forget what that's called, but the multi-service terminal, but every aspect of each connection that you own all the way to the endpoint at each house. At the homes, we own, the only thing that we own in your full network is the wireless router in your house. And the only reason why we own that is because we have access to that to troubleshoot if there's any issue that your customer has or your resident has. When they call our tech team, we genuinely ask them, say, can we have access to your router? They say yes. We then go into the internal workings of their router and troubleshoot. And if we still can't find the problem, that's when we'll actually send a technician out to their home to see what the actual issue is. But we have a full estimation form for any size town, and we can, basically we fill in the blanks with you, find out all the information, and then we share every line item that would make up the cost to serve you.
So what does a community need to do to partner with you for that? What kind of an agreement are they signing to get to that point?
To get a price from us?
Yes.
If you want to give me something, you can give me something, but that's nothing. We'll work with you. Just and I think Mike will tell you, and the gentleman who's the chief information officer from UMass that you talked to at the event, who worked with New Salem. We are almost honest to a fault. We're going to give you as much information as humanly possible before you make a decision to spend a dime. And I think that's shown in our partnerships here. Recently, we renewed 10 of the towns. They still had 1 or 2 years left on their contracts for the most part. We renewed 8 of them for 10 years, and the other 5 for another 5 years out. So, and then another 6 are part of an aggregation that we're negotiating with right now.
Okay.
But that being said, they've had quite a bit of faith in us, and again, we're going to give you as much information. We'll go through all that pricing with all of you, including New Bedford. Even though New Bedford's working with somebody else, if they want to get a better idea of pricing, or just to make sure that to keep everybody honest, we're more than willing to give as much information out to anybody.
Okay, Mike Solinsky's got his hand up there.
Yeah,
Just
I could just say that the cost estimate that Whip City provided, the total cost came in at 97% of what they estimated. So they were pretty darn close, and that's for 600 and we have 84 miles of overhead and a couple miles of underground. We have rivers to cross, mountains to climb, dead ends out in the middle of nowhere. And we were pleasantly surprised that they were within 3%. And we were so happy we signed them up. We were the first one to sign up for 10 years as our ISP for an additional 10 years. And when we had our 3 feet of snow, they were out there faster than some of the electric people. When the electricity came on, the broadband was already repaired and ready to go. They didn't know I was going to be on this call. I didn't know they were going to be on this call, but we can't say enough good about the customer service and the responsiveness of Whip City. And when there's a problem, I can tell you, Jamie Sincata and I were pulling a cable from a burn through at 4 o'clock in the morning through a right of way. There were 3 of us out there, but that's what we did. And within 12 hours, the entire town was back in service, and parts of Heath were also back in service, which is one of our neighboring towns. That's the type of relationship we have with them. So I can't say enough good stuff about them. I mean, we've had a couple of discussions over the years about things, but in fact, Katrine and I were, an hour and a half last Friday, Katrine, discussing things, but we all work it out, and it's a good outfit. But and to be honest, they are honest to a fault. I can tell you that. There's no hidden agenda, no hidden costs, and we've been able to make things work very well. So, and as far as the money is concerned from the state, I think with this slug of money that's coming, I think you guys are going to be well positioned to grab some of it down there with whomever you go. And it's a game changer. The town of Shelburne, we serviced, we picked up 27 customers in the neighboring town of Shelburne because Comcast wouldn't serve them. And now the people that have Comcast in Shelburne are begging Coleraine to extend our network into their area so that they can drop Comcast. So that's the difference. The service and the ability to expand they've seen that, and they've seen how Whip City has performed, and Comcast was out for three full days. Nobody in Shelburne had anything from Comcast for 3 days after Whip City had Coleraine back in service. So they saw what it was, and they were pretty angry at the Comcast people. But when you send a letter to Comcast, or an email or whatever, so somebody answers it out in the cloud or whatever. I know it's Tom or Katrine or Jamie or Tom or Andrew or whatever. There's somebody on the other end with Whip City.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And so one last question to follow up on that, the question about a community wanting to work with you to get an estimate. What do they need to provide to you in terms of information? Any kind of mapping or anything like that? Or are you just knowing all the things that you mentioned that you have to estimate you can find online without the town's staff having to?
No, some of it we'll ask you for specifics, but a lot of the information is available if you do have your own GIS. If you're able to give us information off your GIS. Or your assessor data, things like that.
Okay.
Because some things will come up as a dwelling, it's really a garage, or but we can usually take from the population size to the number of potential dwellings and things like that, and then the miles of road, get a better idea. But if of neighborhoods that are underground. Jamie and I were on Google Earth earlier today looking at is it Fairhaven that has an island, or it goes out to an island, or?
Yes, Fairhaven does.
Yeah, so we were looking there, and we were trying to see if it was overhead or underground, and we could see a couple shadows of poles that the angle of the light, the angle of the sun was at that point. So that's a decent sign that it's a lot easier access to go overhead, and it's a lot less costly. But where the cost does come in with the overhead is, as Otelco or GoNetspeed, sorry, was saying earlier, is that make ready cost.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. And I'll ask one more time if anyone, let's see hands up right now. If anyone has any questions for Whip City before we move on to the next agenda item. And I'm being mindful of the time, we're already at 6:40 here, so we're going to try and wrap up certainly by 7 o'clock. And so, okay, hearing none, then thanks again, everyone from Whip City, for your time. And you may hear from some of the communities down, some of the communities on this call to request more information. But okay, thanks for everything.
Great, thank you, Bob. Thanks for the opportunity.
Alrighty. Okay, so our next agenda item was, let's go back to that number 6, share information about the digital equity work ongoing in various communities. So I know that New Bedford, Jonathan mentioned that New Bedford has got some work ongoing with for digital equity right now. I know Fairhaven has also working with a consultant that was provided through the MBI grant program. And I know, I think a couple of communities have been held up a little bit with contracts with the state, trying to get their contracts finalized. So I know in Fairhaven, there's been no actual activity under that grant. It's just really been on the contract side. Does anybody else have anything they want to share about digital equity work that's going on in your community? Now, Jonathan, I think you mentioned earlier the name of the consulting firm that was hired. I thought that Sean Gross said it was CTC.
Yep, it's CTC, yep.
Oh, it was CTC. Okay, all right. Because I thought earlier you mentioned it sounded like a different name, but okay, yeah. So they're doing the digital equity work, and they're also the same company that's actually looking at a request for information from public-private partners. Okay, and so I don't know, does anybody else have anything going on they want to talk about in digital equity world? Okay, all right, we'll let me go back to the agenda then. Okay, so we discussed readiness to invite a representative from the AG's office to the next meeting and discuss a topic. So, that's something that Carl Allen from Chelsea was trying to, head up for us because he has a contact at the AG's office. I didn't see him on the call today, so we might need to hold off a little bit on that. But conceptually, if anybody has, we talked about this make ready situation. We've talked about, just in general, the seeming monopolies that are existing in communities that only have one service provider, and to try to get the concept of talking to the AG's office about their thoughts on those types of topics, well, especially the competition aspect in Massachusetts. And so that was kind of the concept of how they came up. And does anybody have any new thoughts on that since we last met? Anything come to mind that you think we might want to talk to the Attorney General's office about if we were fortunate enough to get them to our next meeting? Okay, all right, well, we'll kind of go on that basis of what we discussed earlier. And so I think that brings us to the last thing, which is the round table. So if anybody has anything else that you want to bring up that we haven't talked about tonight, anything that you'd like to see on a future agenda, just let me know here. We'll leave it open.
If it's Tom Newton,
Yeah.
if their federal funding has been sort of dispersed and there's money to be had here at the state level, can we get someone on our next meeting to discuss opportunities that might exist for us to capitalize on that?
Okay, good point. So I know that I did see earlier, let me see if I still have that open and if I can maybe share it. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, is everyone looking at my screen now? Boston, it says at the top. Yep. Okay, so it's $147 million from the National Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, BEAD. So that's just I think the heading I saw in there was 4 hours ago or something. It came out earlier today. And so that's I could drop this link into the chat if anyone's interested in reading more about that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, let me do that right now. Let's see. Zoom. Oop. Okay. Oop. Sharing. Oop. Where is my chat? Bear with me a second. I'm trying to find, I don't know why I can't seem to find my chat function here.
Yeah, I don't see it. I was trying to find it, but I don't see it.
Oh, it might be what Chris was saying earlier is that he's the one that sets these Zoom meetings up for us because I don't have a commercial Zoom account, and he uses the one that Watertown has for their municipal use. And so he said there's something about the chat feature that gets disabled because it's a public meeting or something. So what I'll do is I'll just put it into the email list that we have as a note about this, but all right, so not hearing anything else as another suggestion, but thank you for that one, Tom. Maybe we could get Mass Broadband Institute to address that one for us. I'm not sure if that it's a federal grant, but they probably are the most knowledgeable about it because I believe all those funds are going to funnel through the state, right? So, but yeah, all right, good. Thanks for that suggestion. Anybody else? Okay, then if there aren't any other things to discuss tonight, we can draw this one to a close and we'll get the message out for the next meeting in next month, so about the same time towards the end of July. So thanks everyone for participating, and we'll catch up with you next month or sooner if there's something new to develop. Oh, on the one other thing is advocacy for the legislation. I'm assuming that we're going to get something from GoNetSpeed on that, and I'll forward that out to everyone, and then perhaps through email we can circulate a draft that if people want to sign on to, they can. Okay, thanks everyone. Good night. All right, bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.